Game of Thrones, one of the best TV shows that has turned out to be so disappointing. Oh, it's devastating, really. If you've been watching, then you know how many problems there's been, not only this season, but last season and the season before, and it just seems to get worse and worse, and we're about to see this finale Sunday that, oh god, I can't even imagine how bad it's gonna be. But a lot of what the show creators blamed it on was budget constraints. But at the same time, they also said that they basically got a blank check from HBO to do whatever they wanted in each episode, and to go for as many seasons as they wanted. So, you know, that was a BS reason. Like, why couldn't John just pet Ghost a little bit before he left? Budget constraints? But that had me thinking, how can HBO even afford all that? Game of Thrones is one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive show to make. So where is HBO's funding and money coming from? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this video. And by the way, the theory is that the real reason why these showrunners, which are these guys, Dan Benioff and DB Weiss, D&D as they call them, the main reason they wanted to wrap up the show so quickly and cut it short is because they wanted to move on to Star Wars. They wanted to move over and ruin that franchise too. So that's why HBO was giving them money, and they were like, oh, no thanks. God, just looking at their picture pisses me off. You know, if I saw one of them walking down the street with a coffee, I wouldn't do anything too serious, but I would probably drop a shoulder. Just trip a little bit, give them a hard shove, just so they could spill their coffee all over themselves and have a bad day. Because that's what they deserve for this. This is getting to be worse than Lost, which I don't know if you saw that, but the ending, horrible. I'm gonna ruin it for you. It was basically all a dream. Crashed in a plane, they were already dead. That's actually the best ending we could hope for Game of Thrones at this point. But okay, I won't spend this whole video complaining about it, but feel free to go down below in the comments and just let out your feelings. Tell me how much you hate everything about it. I'm a real hater now. This is my first time being a true hater of something. It feels good. Okay, but like I was saying, to produce Game of Thrones is super expensive. So season 8, which is the current season, it's the most expensive yet. Each episode costs $15 million. And there's 6 episodes this season, so that's 90 million total for a season of TV. So in TV, that's a really huge number. But then again, you know, Avengers Endgame cost $356 million to make. And that was a 3-hour movie. So I mean, movies and TV are still on different levels. And the price actually went up because in season 6, a single episode cost around 10 million. And before that, it was 4 million an episode. And before that, 2 million. But as the show kept getting more and more popular and people loved it, HBO let them increase until now when they have a blank check but just don't want to use it. So HBO is pulling out all the stops, spending a ton of money on this. You would think they're spending so much money that they might be losing money on it, but nope. As I explained in a previous video, HBO is the most profitable single network in the world. In 2017, they made $2.2 billion in operating income on $6.3 billion of revenue. They make a lot of revenue for how small they are, and then the profits on that revenue are amazing, like great margins. And by the way, I'm about to give you an overview of HBO's business model in this video, but if you want to dive deeper, definitely check out this previous video I did, because in this video we go over HBO compared to Netflix and Disney, and you know, Disney Plus just released, so that's interesting. And if you like TV, definitely watch it. I am gonna link to that video right up here. So there's a good article on Slate talking about HBO's business model. Now keep in mind this is from 2012, so you kind of gotta ignore the numbers, but it still gives you a good perspective of what's going on. So the headline is, how does HBO make money on expensive shows only 3 million people watch? And in this article they use the first season of Game of Thrones as an example. So the season premiere had 2.2 million viewers, and the finale was seen by 3 million people, which is on the low end when you compare it to a network like Fox and their sitcom Breaking In, which I don't even remember that. But Game of Thrones was renewed pretty quickly after its premiere, while Breaking In was, I think, canceled, if I've never heard of it. So basically, premium networks like HBO, Showtime, Starz, their bar of how many people they need watching is much lower. Why? Because their whole business is about selling subscriptions. And compare that to a normal TV network where their main business model is advertisements. So like they say at Showtime, the channel's goal is to satisfy their current subscribers and to entice non-subscribers to sign up. And subscribers for HBO, what are they paying? Like $15 a month, right? But on network television, it's a different story because they don't have that same subscription model. So on networks and basic cable, shows are just a delivery vehicle for advertising. And if a program does not attract a big enough audience for those ads, then it's gonna get canceled. So the program's job is to get as many people as possible to watch the show, because the ads, as you know, appear during commercial breaks. And that's the whole whole point of the show. It's just one big advertising machine. But that business model has been breaking down completely. It's the whole cutting the cord phenomenon. People are jumping off of cable. They're not watching regular TV anymore because they've all moved to things like Netflix, Hulu, HBO. And I've discussed all of that in previous videos, which if you want to watch, check out this streaming playlist right here. Click that and we go into depth about what happened in the media business, especially with TV. Now, premium cable networks, they produce a lot fewer shows too. At most, they got like 3 or 4 episodes of original television per week. So one of their other goals is to attract positive attention or get that buzz. So they need shows like Game of Thrones to dominate cultural conversation, which they have fully succeeded at, because that's going to cause more people to sign up to HBO to watch it. So ideally, every show would receive critical praise, a huge audience, and a shelf full of statuettes. But in a pinch, just one of those things will suffice. So The Wire, which is absolutely the greatest show of all time, if you haven't seen it, go watch it right now. It's honestly amazing. I didn't believe the hype when people were telling me to watch it, but it's so good. So anyway, their audience peaked at 4 million, but went down to under 1 million in its final episodes. And it was ignored at award shows, but thanks to the critical acclaim, everyone was always talking about The Wire, HBO gave it 5 seasons. And that show had a fantastic ending, unlike what we're about to see in Game of Thrones. So these premium networks like HBO and Showtime, they sell subscriptions directly now to people. But before that, the way they made money was being attached onto cable subscriptions, right? So you get your basic cable and then you got the option to upgrade for HBO as well. So that still does make up a significant portion of their money, because the cable and satellite providers, they market those premium networks. But then of course you got to split the money in the subscription. Now HBO has one of the best deals with cable and satellite companies. So this article says that they bank half the subscription fee from new viewers, but this was also 7 years ago. I think it's even better now, I kind of forgot. But each premium network is making their own separate deal with the cable companies. And HBO is like the premium. So they have the most pricing power. They could basically demand what they want. That's why they get a really good deal, whereas Showtime would not get as good a deal. In this example, they might be getting less than half of the subscription fee. And then, unlike most networks, HBO owns rather than licenses all its shows. So compare that to Showtime, that owns about half its output. Like Homeland on Showtime was actually owned and produced by Fox. They were just showing it on Showtime. So owning your own programming makes it more expensive, but it's a smart move. So the first season of Game of Thrones cost between 50 and 60 million to produce, but international sales of the program covered more than 25 million of that. So Showtime, with Homeland, any international sales just went to Fox. But then HBO has complete control over all the merchandise too. So back then people were still, watching DVDs and stuff, but they banked on those types of things. So season 1 of Game of Thrones sold about 350,000 copies in its first week. And like we just said, owning it means you could sell it to other networks, which a lot of times happens in the international market. So HBO has over 50 million subscribers outside the United States as of 2012, and it licenses its programs to those channels that feed those people over there. So they might not be watching HBO shows on HBO, but a different network, but HBO is still making all the money off of that. So as you can see, HBO has strong control over their subscriptions and their content. And that's why, like we said, it's the most profitable single network in the world. They're making a ton of money. And that's kind of why you saw a show like Game of Thrones on HBO. You wouldn't see it on a normal network like ABC. Not only because of how violent and raunchy it is, but also just the production scale is a lot bigger. Maybe not in the beginning, but definitely now. And they can do that because of this business model, the way it's set up with the subscriptions. And again, I'm just scratching the surface on these different business models. Go watch this video, because in that video I explain how HBO wants to stay boutique. They want to be known as the premium where everyone goes to make the best shows so that they can keep selling their subscriptions. Netflix is trying to become the new cable, which is why you see just such crappy shows on there sometimes, because they're trying to cover everything. Disney has a completely different business plan. They're trying to make their Disney Plus streaming service, but that service feeds into all their other businesses like theme parks, merchandise, movies. Now in this video I also explained that HBO's CEO left. His name was Richard Plepler, and he was kind of the guy who made HBO what it is. He's the reason why it's so profitable, why it's known as the most prestige network. And now that he's gone, well, I kind of figured things would crumble. And I don't know if he resided over this last season of Game of Thrones. I think he did, but man, it is bad. And it's funny because as soon as he left, you ended up having the biggest screw up, because Game of Thrones was up here. It was a great show, right? Now it's about to end down here, way down here. Maybe this is George R.R. Martin's secret plan though. He planned for the actual TV show to just take a nosedive so that he still made all his money, but then his books become the true story again. So everyone has to go buy them, which is why he held back on making them. He keeps saying they're not done, but I bet they're done, just sitting there, waiting for this to be over and for him to come in as a savior. He is playing and winning the game of Game of Thrones. Anyway, check out those videos, check out that streaming playlist. We go over all these business models. It's super interesting, especially if you love TV. And don't forget to comment down below with how much you hate everything about Game of Thrones now, how much you hate D&D. Really express yourself. And if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more content just like it. And hit that bell so you get a notification every time we release a new video. We're doing videos almost every day, so subscribe and I will see you in the next one. Stay fallible out there. Bye.